where should the software be running? Should it be accelerator? Should it be general purpose programmable? And how should the APIs be represented? And so these kind of questions are fundamental computer architecture questions. And you could see that the world was somewhat split. Then all of a sudden, Windows 95 came, and the PC took off, became the most successful consumer electronics product in history, and was the only consumer electronics products I ever remembered where people waited in line, waited right outside retail stores waiting to buy Windows 95, a software that was packaged, as you guys all recall. And so the PC takes off, and then the next thing that happened was Pentium. The Pentium microprocessor came out and started this next 30 years of what was called Moore's Law, the advancement of microprocessors. And the entire world shifted, from this dialogue of general purpose computing versus accelerators to 100% focused on general purpose computing. And that's where all of the R&D budget went. That's where all of the interest went, and that's where all of the budget of a computer went. And of course, Intel did incredibly well. The Pentium microprocessor became probably one of the first really branded technology thing in the world. And meanwhile, our perspective was that acceleration had its place, and there are applications that wouldn't be possible if not for acceleration. And that was a hard perspective to go get funded on, frankly, and that was a hard perspective to get customers to believe, because all of the energy was focused on Pentium microprocessors.
And also, until that time, there was really no ability.
That's kind of the early seed. I think I'm trying to get to the fact that the early seed of the company was in the context of the development of this new computer system, this new market called personal computers. In the context of general purpose computing versus accelerators, all of the funding going towards general purpose computing, and yet we had a perspective that we would like to build computers to do things that normal computers can't, and normal computers are CPU based or general purpose computing based systems. And so we started to evolve from accelerator, which is 3D graphics accelerator, to accelerated computing, and that journey took us here.
Yeah. So one of our early experiences is our first product, which we were quite proud of, turned out to be a pretty much abysmal introduction to the market. I mean, it sold some immediately and then sold nothing. And I actually think our success is somewhat born from early failure, which is not unfamiliar to a lot of entrepreneurs.
I would have liked to avoid that entire first 3 years, to be honest.
Yeah, I can imagine that.
Yeah. So here, this is what happened. Let me first tell you what the right answer is. The right answer is it's a technology called inverse texture mapping, and you draw three-dimensional scenes by breaking down the geometry into triangles. The reason why triangle, because the triangle always has one normal. And the reason why you want that one normal is you want to compute where is the direction of light coming from and where it's going to get reflected to.
It's always in a plane.
It's always on a plane. It's easy to compute the normal to a triangle because it's always on a plane. And it's hard to do that if the surface is curved. Okay, and so anyways, there are some basic reasons why 3D graphics should be based on triangles, and the right way of doing texturing is called inverse texturing, and the way that you decide what's an object in front or behind another object is using this simple technique called Z-buffering. Well, triangles, inverse texturing, Z-buffering. The technology we chose, we invented, was called curved surfaces, not triangles, forward texture mapping versus the right answer, inverse. There's only two answers. We chose the wrong one. And, uh, and, and we chose no Z buffers versus Z buffers. In every single decision, there were only two choices. So here's all these.
Just in the interest of complete transparency, we optimized for things that were not real at the end.
And so,
but we were wrong.
okay, listen. Smart people do smart things. Smart people do smart things, and we made those choices for very good reasons. But I just think it's funny.
Yes.
That out of three choices, whether A or B, we made three choices exactly wrong. Yeah. How do you explain that?
Dumb.
And that tells you something. I'm not sure what it tells you, but it tells you something. Chris, how do you...
I think it tells us we learned our lesson.
Good thing that this is a couch. I'll lay down and we should ask ourselves, what happened? Let our feelings out. You had to start 33 years ago. Now all kinds of feelings are pouring out. I'll be in a cold sweat here pretty soon.
So we turned that disaster where we actually generated good technology, bad product. And we used the learnings from that, which, we weren't in business to satisfy our own desire to get our technology out there. But
Chris, the thing that people are blown away by, and this is the amazing thing about Chris. And so this is what happened. So
I'm
here
supposed
we are.
to be interviewing you.
It's all about you. Now, I want to talk about you. It's more interesting. And so here, this is what happened. So we built this thing, NV1, which is all these technology that I described. The product formation is kind of like a car has, these doors and has a trunk and a hood, and it's formulated in a way that most people think is a modern car. Well, it turns out our car didn't have 4 wheels. Our car had like 6 wheels, and it was all formulated wrong. Okay, so not only was the technology wrong, the product formulation was wrong. And we did the first version, and so we came to the conclusion that the reason why we didn't succeed in the first version is we didn't make that first version good enough, so we made the second version. And the second version, we thought, gosh, maybe we'll do a third version, all doing it exactly wrong. Okay? And so it took us like 2.5, 3 years to figure out that maybe it's just wrong. and all these smart people are just doing it wrong. And so we came to the conclusion where we're doing it wrong, and we decided we're going to go do it right. This is the part that's a miracle. On the day that we decided that we're going to go do it right, it turns out none of us knew how to do it right. We only knew how to do it wrong. And so, luckily, there was this other company called Silicon Graphics, the world leader at the time, and many of our colleagues that work at NVIDIA now, and many of our employees that work at NVIDIA now, they wrote this book while they were at Silicon Graphics of how to do it right. And so I didn't have very much money on me, but I think I had a couple $100 on me. So I ran down to the bookstore, and bought all of that book. I bought 3 textbooks because that's all the money I had. I bought 3 textbooks, I brought it back, and I gave it to the engineers. I gave one to Chris and gave one to a couple of other engineers. And so they started reading. Now, just think. We started a company to do 3D graphics, and the money that we raised to do 3D graphics, we had to use to go buy a book. Like putting ourselves in college, And so we went and bought a book. We came back, Chris read it, and we built the world's best 3D graphics processor. And by the way, that lesson, the fact that we can learn almost anything, smart people can learn almost anything and make a contribution, that lesson permeates our company today. So when artificial intelligence came along, self-driving cars came along, now robotics came along, the attitude of the company is, how hard could it be? It turns out it's super hard. In every single case, it's turned out it was super hard. But almost every single time, in my mind, we're probably about 3 textbooks away.
Leaps a number of times, and I give you the credit for directing us there. But, how do you decide to, turn the R&D budget behind a CUDA, behind, AI, when, there's $0 billion market in front of you. No one's done it, so it's not like it's proven. We may or may not know how to do it. There may or may not even be a textbook to tell us how to do it. But you got to make this call 10 years in advance of the market coming. Where do you get that insight from?
Well, the fundamental principles, the first principles of almost everything that we do, answers three questions really. The first question is it insanely hard to do? And because if it's not hard to do, then it's not worthy of the people that are at the company to do it. And this is this is really, really important because at the core, what makes NVIDIA great is it's a place where amazing people come to work. And we promise them, and you've heard me say it over and over again, you heard me promise them, our job is to create an environment where amazing people get to do their life's work. Well, and if you just dissect everything I just said, amazing people only want to do their life's work. Amazing people don't want to go do work that other people have already done. So they want to do something unique. They want to do unique work. And on the other hand, once you bring the people here, if you want it to grow virally and you want amazing people to attract other amazing people, then the only way you could do that is to choose work that is worthy of being their life's work. And so one, it has to be insanely hard to do. And then second, it has to be work that's somewhat, our destiny. In the sense that if not for us, it won't get done. If not for us, it won't get done. But because of us, it can get done. And so that's, in marketing speak, it's like finding your core competence. Does that make sense? I just said in very human words, two sentences that you can find them in business books and marketing books. You can find them in company building books. But I simply described it in ways that is human. It's worthy of inspiring other people, and it inspires us. And then the third thing is, it has to be sufficiently entertaining. It has to be sufficiently fun to do, because one, it's hard to do. It's never been, and two, it's never been done before. And three, if it's not fun, then when you're failing along the way, and you're struggling and suffering and all the pain that goes, the pain and suffering that goes along with all good journeys, you're going to give up. And so unless you're propelled by some sense of purpose or joy, or the entertainment value is too high, or it's just it's hard to, because you're not making money. Is it right? Because most of the things that we're doing, it takes a decade to get there. And so for a decade, you're not making any money. And so you're not being propelled by some financial reason. And you're not getting much positive feedback from the marketplace because there are no market, no customers, and most of the customers you talk to don't want it. And or they want it and you're bad at doing it. There's a whole bunch of reasons. And so you're going to be failing along the way. That pain and suffering can only be overcome through some really strong sense of purpose, or it's just way too fun.
Yeah. So our journey has been one of stutter steps and successes, and slipping back, and then some really grand wins. How has your leadership style changed between scrappy startup Jensen and supreme overlord AI Jensen?
Yeah, Chris and I have been in meetings together more than any two human, probably, and I don't think I've changed at all. Have you? That's kind of that wasn't a compliment for myself. It was I'm more skillful today than before. I don't know that I'm more artful, but I am more skillful.
Maybe less tactful. You know what you want now.
I'm tactful. I'm just straightforward. Look, if you tell somebody, if you if you if you tell your company what you want, it might not happen. But if you don't tell your company what you want, it will never
It
happen.
won't happen.
And so I think you should always put it on the table. But I always put I always put my ideas on the table, not because they're therefore the final idea. They're hardly ever the final idea, as you know. I put it on the table so that people could attack it. And so I just set it on the table and watch other people beat it to death. And what comes out of it is something better. And so I think uh, you could innovate in a couple of ways. You could just sit in an empty room and just and have ideas just kind of formulate, I guess, and people throw it on the table, and eventually you create something out of nothing. I tend not to feel that that's the best way to do it. I tend to think that maybe presenting a potential opportunity as weakly formed as you like. Put it on. Somebody has to have the courage to put an idea on the table to be criticized, and I've always never had any problem being criticized, and and um, and so I think if you're an innovator, if you're an artist, if you're a designer, and if you're a strategist, if you're afraid of being criticized, it's very difficult to innovate. It's very difficult to have good ideas. And I think we meander, Chris. I think we meander through from inspirational or an inspiring idea, but we meander through, setbacks and advances and setbacks because we're iterating on what is a good idea at its core, but nobody knows exactly how it's going to turn out. And we're not afraid to making progress. We're not afraid of making progress, even when we're uncertain. And that's one of the strengths of the company. We're willing to kick the ball down the road, even when we're not exactly sure it's going to be the right kick. A lot of companies, you just won't fund the project unless you're completely certain it's going to have an ROI. And yet in our company, we have never once done a spreadsheet with a risk reward or risk, ROI analysis or some kind of CAGR or never happened. Not one time. And we've got, 20 incredibly, people think we have, one giant great business. We have 20 incredibly great businesses. And each one of these businesses has technology element to it, product element to it, strategy element to it, ecosystem, industry, and they're all different. And every single one of them started at zero. And the market was at zero and we were at zero. And now we're, we like $0 billion markets. But I think that we're not afraid of doing those kind of investments, and we kick it down the road. We pivot.
It's kind of funny. There's no plan that we've initiated that what we concluded was the original plan.
Right.
Not even close.
Right.
Not even close. I remember one time we had a marketing guy come in and make us sign a product document. This is the specs. We're not going to change them. And it was like it had a half-life of a week. And that was the stupidest thing we ever did. Well, there's probably other stupid things, but to commit to something as the market and the world changes
Call that
around
the
you.
stupidest thing we've ever done? I don't know.
Well, yeah, I take it back. It's just one of many.
33 years. The list is long. So a lot of companies have this thing called market requirement document. We don't do that anymore. We did it once, and then we go through the approval process, and every single organization, at the time calling them organizations kind of silly, but every group would review it and commit to it and approve it. And that is the worst thing you could possibly do.
Before the ink was
yeah.
dry, it was obsolete.
Yeah, it's horrible for an organization. It's horrible for innovation. It's horrible in a world where things are changing all the time. It forces you to pretend like you know the future when you don't. It forces you to sign up for something that somehow you're bullied into, and by other organizations. So there's a lot of management techniques that many large companies do to hold people accountable. to tie it to their compensation, so that they can somehow build up promises and commission, and from that we reason about what's the best that we can do, best performance or best cost or best schedule or best weight or best anything, best time or whatever it is, that can be done, and we call that concept, the speed of light concept. And once the organization understands what is possible, and everybody understands what's possible in every single direction, then the rest of it is simply trade-off decisions, right? We might not decide to push one particular parameter to the limit so that we can benefit from something else, because you only have so much resources, so much time, so much money, so many people. So everything can't be perfect. But if we understood what perfection was everywhere, then we can make the right decisions. But if people were to prejudge a lot of that just so that they can make us promises on this and this and that, by the time that we get a proposal, it's so layered in with so much other people's assumptions that you really have no idea what's possible. And so I think the concept of speed of light in our company was probably one of the best management innovation ideas that the world's ever seen.
And it removes you from thinking incrementally. I can make it better, but how much better? Is that a little better good or a lot better good?
And this is the concept of continuous improvement. The concept of continuous improvement is really terrific. The idea that you would refine and improve your craft over a long period of time is a fantastic idea. And I love that purveyors of fried chicken and ramen and pizza and furniture makers, and they have this sense of craft that they refine over time. I love that. But in the world of technology, it is completely nonsense. And the reason for that is because the idea of continuous improvement says it only matters that you're improving from last year. Okay, so people sign up for whatever we were last year, we'll make it 10% better and 10% better and 10% better. Technology doesn't really want to work like that. Technology really wants to work, and the people in this organization, this room here, you're trying to innovate. You're trying to do something that disrupts existing capabilities. You don't go, a car. We're in the right in this. Is it? Did I learn that Henry Ford had a vacation home here? Is that right?
That's what we heard.
Okay, so okay, good. So we'll use car as an example. I mean, the car wasn't a continuous improvement of a horse, and so that's the problem with continuous improvement. So inside our company, we don't start from continuous improvement. I don't care how bad you were last year. It doesn't change the fact, just because you had a D last year doesn't mean we can't have an A this year. You don't go from a D to a C to a B. You're out of business. So you don't even have to try. And so the idea that we were incredibly bad last year at doing something, there's a budgeting system, it's called zero-based budgeting. Have you guys heard that? And zero-based budgeting is always still a best way of thinking. And so,
well, the besides thinking speed of light, there's a lot of other things that you do that I think are a little unusual for CEOs. You have a really large staff. You're really transparent about.
Set up a comfortable chair like this, and you schedule a time and you sit down and you go, I got to talk to you, Chris. And I just think that the pump and the circumstance are incompatible. That is not proportional response. Every day we're making mistakes. Every day we're making mistakes. If every single mistake requires me to take somebody aside, so that's number one. And so when a mistake is made, or something could be better, some criticism, and I track them and I give them, you got to just deliver right there. That's as much as emotional content as needs to be provided. It's not a heart-to-heart talk. This is not a destruction of your ego. This is not anything. It's not going to get reflected in your review. It's not going to get reflected in your compensation. It won't get reflected anywhere. I've just got to get it off my chest. I just need you to know it, number one. Number two, I need everybody else to know it. And this is a great insight. You know, you're sitting in the meeting and all the strategy conversations being talked about, and somebody says something that is just fundamentally wrong. Now, there's a lot of good ideas. There are a lot of good ideas. And then there's ideas that are uncertain to be good and then become good. And then there's good old-fashioned bad ideas. Okay? I just gave you NVIDIA's founding, the 3 choices we made. Smart people made 3 bad decisions. I'll go back, I'll tell you, if I were to go back now, I would make those 3 exactly the opposite. Okay? There's no question I would do that. Having said that, it's teaching. And so we're reasoning all the time. Constantly, 24/7. I'm reasoning in front of everybody all the time. This is, you know, so we listen to sessions. And I hate gossip. No, let me say it again. I love gossip. Just not about the company. You know what I'm saying? I love gossip about other people's company. And so, and so I don't want to create a culture where you know, I spoke to Jensen and Jensen said, that's a horrible thing. That the rest of that sentence is going to go badly, and I hate it. And so whatever needs to be said, I should be able to say in front of everybody. The reason why we have a large management team is because we want to keep information moving in the company as fast as possible. I don't believe there are that many things that are need to know. There aren't that many things that I wouldn't tell you. Unless it puts you in harm's way in some reason, why would the company be less? Why would the employees of the company be less well off, lesser productive, if they didn't understand the company's challenges, opportunities, strategies, threats, so on and so forth? And so I want to make sure that all of the employees know it, and that's the reason why during company meetings I explain these things very, very clearly, very publicly. And it doesn't make us weak. Every company's got challenges. It doesn't make us somehow weaker to say that we have challenges, we have problems we have to solve. You know, so they're just problems. There's challenges we have, and so I love being able to explain that to people. And the amazing thing is when you're surrounded by amazing people, Chris, and you tell people what your challenges are. Just as you know, when you come to me, you ask me, you know, what are problems? I'll tell you my problems. Surprisingly, it gets solved. And so if we tell all of our people what are top challenges on our mind and things that we're worried about, surprisingly, it gets solved. And so keeping it to ourselves isn't a helpful.
Yeah, it's turned out to be an amazing way to cut down bureaucracy and fiefdoms.
Yeah.
If everybody knows everything, then information is not a weapon
Look
to
at
be wielded
the
on
way,
somebody
look
else.
At the way, that's right. Yeah.
So,
Look at the way modern organizations are created. You got one person on top, and then it tapers like that. And that's the reason why there's about 45 layers of middle management. And then the people down here are doing the work. Information is getting mutated all the way along. You know, they're just getting. So I think one, number two, the people that report to the CEO should be, you would think, should be the most capable, the most mature, the most, right? Requires the least supervision. And so why is it that the CEO only has 4 direct reports? How does that make any sense? And so I have 60 direct reports. I've never had one-on-ones with anybody. The only time I've ever had a one-on-one with Chris is right now. Okay.
and I'm thankful for it.
You and me both. And so, Chris, we need to have a heart-to-heart. Except we're having a heart-to-heart in public. And so why would we ever have a one-on-one? I've never written Chris a review. I don't remember anything that he's done that causes me to want to write it down at the end of the year. You know? It's kind of like writing a review for Lori and Melody, our wives. Our wives. At the end of the year, you know, hey honey, can we sit down?
Let's have a talk.
I think we need to have a heart-to-heart talk. And I've sent the kids away. It's just the two of us today. And listen, 1, 2. That's ridiculous. I don't even remember all my grievances towards you. And
there's been plenty.
what? Well, I've had many grievances towards you. I just don't remember them because I get them off my chest, and then right? Does it make sense? And so that's kind of our management system, and it's led us to today.
Well, Jensen, I congratulate you on a Lifetime Achievement Award. Of course, I hope your lifetime doesn't end here and that the story continues. But